Amid all the NBA free agency news, it was easy for the gambling scandal involving Malik Beasley to get swallowed up in the news cycle. So let me tell you why you need to be paying attention to this. The Pistons guard was a great addition this season for my Pistons. He finished second in the Sixth Man of the Year voting, and his 319 threes were the most in franchise history and second in the league overall. But now Beasley is under investigation in a federal gambling probe which is centered around suspicious gambling activity from the 2023-24 season when Beasley was with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, according to an ESPN report, at least one prominent U.S. sportsbook detected unusually heavy betting interest on Beasley's statistics beginning around January 2024. More specifically in the ESPN report, a gambling industry source pointed to a game between the Bucks and the Trailblazers on January 31st, 2024, when the odds on Beasley recording fewer than 2.5 rebounds moved significantly at sportsbooks before the game due to a surge of action on the under. However, in that game, Beasley finished with 6 rebounds, and the bets that raised an eyebrow lost. But the story has a lot more complicated layers than this. Multiple reports have surfaced showing that Beasley is facing significant financial issues. There's a track record that shows Beasley borrowing money up front and not making good on it later. Court records obtained by the Detroit News show that Beasley owes a lot of people money. He was sued by a sports management group for failing to repay a $650,000 advance against future marketing revenue from his name, image, and likeness. Beasley also was in deep with companies that specialize in loaning money to professional athletes. A company won a $5.8 million judgment against him when he played for Minnesota. And last year, Beasley signed a deal with a Florida company that supplies bridge loans for pro athletes, with Beasley using his current and future NBA contracts as collateral. Beasley is also being sued for back rent for a luxury high-rise apartment he rented in Detroit. He had to pay a $26,000 judgment to a celebrity barber. A barber? Were they dipping the clippers in gold? Was his even blessed by the Pope? For 26 G's, it should have come with a guarantee that Beasley was going to drop 40 after every new haircut. He also owed another $35,000 to his dentist, who started garnishing his check earlier this year. Them damn veneers better have been worn by Jesus. Now, if you're wondering how a player who has earned $60 million in his 9-year NBA career can be out here moving like Russell Red from Janky Promoters, as Matt Barnes once explained, you'd be surprised how many players end up in financial distress.
So my deals were 300, 400, 500,000. And to be honest with you, at the end of every summer, I was broke. Because financial literacy is something that's talked about often now, but you think late 90s, early 2000s, it wasn't talked about. We talked about houses, cars, jewelry, women, everything but how to save what we're all working for. So I came from food stamps and drugs, so I didn't really have any kind of representation that showed me, okay, we'll put this away and save this and do this, invest this. Like Jack said, when it came in, it went out even faster.
While Beasley hasn't been charged with anything, Beasley's situation should be especially concerning because this is what sports leagues fear. A player experiencing financial issues who possibly sees gambling as a quick side hustle or becomes a target for those who want to use his circumstances to get inside information or, in the worst case scenario, be pressured to throw games. But in some ways, sports leagues have only themselves to blame. When the Supreme Court struck down the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992, which was a federal statute that had restricted legal betting to primarily Nevada for 26 years, a dangerous Pandora's box was opened. There are 38 states plus Washington, D.C., where some form of sports betting is legal. That includes 30 states where you can gamble online. In 2024, the sports betting industry posted a record $13.7 billion in revenue, a $2 billion increase from 2023. Since the Supreme Court's decision, the amount of money wagered on sports has jumped from $5 billion to a staggering $121 billion, with 94% of the wagers placed online. Complicating matters even more is how every major sports league has gotten into bed with sports gambling websites such as FanDuel. ESPN, who for a long time shunned any association with gambling, created ESPN Bet. Now ESPN personalities promote the app nonstop, do gambling segments on their shows, and regularly discuss their own wagers. The widespread acceptance of gambling has made it far less taboo, especially among professional athletes. While sports certainly had high-profile gambling scandals prior to the 2018 Supreme Court ruling, the 1990 Chicago White Sox and Pete Rose come to mind, Since gambling has gone mainstream, we have seen a steady stream of athletes getting busted for gambling on their own sport. Last year, the NBA banned the Toronto Raptors' Jonte Porter from the league after an investigation found that he disclosed financial information to bettors, limited his participation in at least one game while in Toronto, and bet on NBA games while playing in the G League. In March, the NCAA began investigating 2 Fresno State basketball players for participating in daily fantasy contests based on their own performances. One player, Jalen Weaver, told ESPN he was dismissed from the team because he bet $50 he would score more than 11 points against New Mexico last December. Weaver scored 13. Well, at least he took the oath. Notre Dame had to suspend its swimming team for a year because the players set up their own sports book where they could bet on themselves or on their teammates' performance at meets. They also bet among themselves on the Super Bowl and March Madness. And if you think this sounds relatively harmless, realize that NCAA athletes aren't allowed to gamble on any sports. The scary part is despite what happened at Notre Dame, Fresno State, and a number of other schools, the NCAA is currently considering a proposal that would allow college players to bet on professional sports. Now, I'll be fully transparent. I have and do bet on sports. Not often, as I live in a state where sports gambling isn't allowed. And even if it were, I seriously doubt that it would be something that I would regularly do. I'm also not a professional athlete with a lot to gain for insider information or betting on oneself. But there's a lot of denial going on with sports gambling. Sports leagues are serving 2 masters, capitalism and greed. If gambling is powerful enough to ensnare professional athletes who make millions of dollars, the lure for civilians is even more powerful. More people bet on sports than invest in stocks. And based on what the statistics tell us, sports gambling is poised to be the tobacco of this generation. Bet on it. I'm Jemele Hill, and I approve this message.